So to start off this fun snowman tumbler, first of course I'm using my cup chuck. I'm going to screw that directly into my cup to hold it in place while I'm working. And then for my tumbler, I'm just using a stainless steel tumbler. You can definitely use a prepped tumbler or just spray painted or base coated white. So for my next step, I'm just going to mix in my mica, which is a sparkly shimmery white. And then I'm also going to add in my white snow dispersion color, which you can skip this step if you decided to spray paint or base coat the tumbler white. So I'm just mixing that into 10 milliliters each part A and B epoxy, and I'm going to make sure that it is mixed really well. We don't want any of the dispersion color to streak, and we also don't want any of the mica powder to kind of flake off as we're applying this. Once that's all mixed together, I'm just going to apply this over my entire tumbler, and you'll notice when you start to apply, you'll see streaks, but as you continue to apply it over the rest of your cup, that will even itself out. Now, you'll notice at the end that it still may not be fully covered, but that's okay because we're going to go in with a second layer, and then by then, it will be perfectly covered. Don't forget to go in with a torch and pop any of those micro bubbles as well. So now for my top hat, I'm going to add some holly and berries to this. So I am using my culture sculpt. I'm just going to mix up a smaller even amount of A and B of my culture sculpt. Now you do want to make sure that you do mix this really well together. You shouldn't see any streaks or any different colors. You want it to be one single color, so make sure that you mix it really well. Now you can use dispersion color to add color to your culture sculpt here. However, for mine, I decided against that and I went in and I added alcohol inks after it cured just to give it a more vibrant look. So to start with my leaves, I just started by rolling it into a smaller ball, and then I'm going to pull and pinch the ends just to get a point, and I'm going to do that once towards the top, and then I'm going to start by sculpting it on the sides here and just doing the same thing. Pull it and then pinch it into a nice point. You'll notice when working with a culture sculpt that it is very delicate and can easily be misshapen, so just continue to lightly push and pull, make those points, and then you may need to lay it on a flat surface to kind of reshape that once you have your general shape in mind. Once you have your two leaves done, you'll also just want to go in. You can use a razor or a knife or an X-Acto knife. I'm just using a little ballpoint tip here, and I'm just adding a line for my leaves here straight down the middle. For this next part, I am using just a small hand clay extruder. Now you definitely can do this by hand and just use an X-Acto knife to cut out a thin rectangular line. However, I wanted mine to be more uniform, so I just decided to use this instead. So I just rolled up a small amount of my culture sculpt, and then I'm using the small rectangular shape, and I'm going to wrap this around my hat. So I'm just gently pushing it onto my hat so that it does cure and harden onto the hat, and I don't have to worry about epoxying it after. And then I'm just rolling up 3 little balls for my berries, and then I'm going to, while it is still wet and not cured, I'm going to adhere my leaves and kind of bend them around the hat. So I'm removing the bottom piece here from the hat, which does hold the light. Now you can later on epoxy that together so that it is not removable, but for this step I just took it out, and then now I'm going to first place my leaves kind of at a diagonal angle and just line those up along the hat, and then I will add the berries next. Now just make sure that you are lightly pressing it on. If you push too much, it can disform your shape. Once you've got it on the hat, if you find that it is misshapen and you do need to correct it while it is still wet, you can just go back in and lightly kind of press it down and then reshape those points as needed. Then we're just going to let that cure for about 5 to 6 hours before we color. So with my leftover culture sculpt, I went in with that same rectangular line with my extruder and I just made a little scarf. So I just did the rectangular line and wrapped it around my cup. Now again, you have to be gentle here when you're placing it around your cup so that it doesn't stretch or pull your shape. So I just wrapped it around the cup lightly and kind of pressed it down to adhere it, and then I just crossed them over for my scarf. Once you have that shaped to how you like, you just want to let that cure. So to color this, you can use any number of different options. You can use paint. I chose to use alcohol ink because it does give me the most vibrant results. So I'm just going in with a brush and my alcohol ink, and I'm just going to carefully color that in. Just know if you are using alcohol inks to go a little bit light-handed because the ink will spread and you don't want to get colors or mix colors where you don't want them. Once that's done, I'm just going to let that dry for about 24 hours. So now I am going in and I'm adding another layer of epoxy with just the mica this time. I'm not adding my dispersion color because I don't want it to be more white. I just kind of wanted to give it an extra shimmery look. So I am going to go over my scarf. However, I chose to keep my scarf white and shimmery. If you wanted to color your scarf, now would be a good time to do so, whether with alcohol inks or paint, before you add your mica on this step. So just make sure you go over the entire tumbler. Don't forget the bottom. Make sure that you do get in the cracks and grooves of your scarf. You don't want to miss any epoxy there. You want to make sure that it is fully covered, and then we're going to let that cure. Once that's cured, we're going to add our water slide. So I'm just cutting around the edges, and then for this cup, because it is white and it is a lighter base, I'm only doing one water slide. However, if you wanted it to be more vibrant, you can definitely use two. So I just got my water slide completely wet. I'm going to place it on the cup approximately where I want it, and then I'm going to use 2 fingers to hold it and kind of pull it back and then remove my backing. Don't forget that you do need to remove all of the water, so I just use a towel, or you can use a little squeegee brush and just kind of brush out all that excess water. So for my little buttons, I just used my black pop of color, and then I used this little dotting tool here, and I just dipped it in the paint and then just did 3 buttons as even as I could on the cup. Now it's time to sculpt the booty. This was so much fun. I really didn't think that I was going to get it to turn out, but it turned out better than I had thought. So again, we're using our culture sculpt. Now I did use a larger amount here because we're going to do the skirt in the same step too. So I'm just mixing up again equal parts A and B of my culture sculpt, mix it together really well, and I am not going to add any color to this again as well. So for the skirt, I did do it in 2 pieces just because it was kind of easier that way to get it to attach. So I'm just starting out with just a chunk of the culture sculpt, and then I'm kind of going to flatten it around half of the cup here, and then you'll see I'm going to use the culture sculpt bottle just to kind of hold it and shape it because it wouldn't hold itself on the cup as it was. So I'm just kind of flattening it around the cup, just kind of pushing, making those little ridges with the culture sculpt as like a wave, so like a wavy skirt, and I'm just adhering transferring it to the Culture Sculpt bottle just so that it will hold its shape. Now, before it does dry to the bottle, I do wait for it to harden just slightly, and then I do move it onto my cup. That way it does cure onto my cup and I can kind of reform the shape back to my cup. Now I'm just going to start by forming 2 equal-sized balls, and then I'm just going to kind of flatten them onto the back of my cup under where the skirt would be. So I use the palm of my hand to kind of flatten it out slightly, and then I go back around and then just kind of form it back so that it wasn't completely flat. And then I did draw the line down the middle, just kind of curved, and then I took out some of the Culture Sculpt under the bottom of where the butt is, just to kind of give it more of a shape. Once you have everything shaped and the skirt is back on your cup, you do just want to let that cure before the next step. So not shown in the video, I did go ahead and paint my skirt red with the alcohol ink, and then I did the opposite side of the skirt and connected the two just the exact same way that I did the front of the skirt in the previous video. And now, because I wanted to add a little extra shimmer, I'm just going in with this super pretty gold mica powder, and I'm using an eyeshadow brush and kind of brushing that on. Now, not all of it will adhere, so that's just something to be mindful of when you're epoxying next. So now I'm just going to add my layer of epoxy over the cup. I'm going to save the skirt for last because of the mica. I don't want to spread that over the rest of the cup, so I'll do that last. And then I also went in and added more of the white mica to the butt to make that shiny too. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to check out all of our other crafty videos.